Hey guys, so today I have this really old speaker. It actually used to be a tester speaker at the workplace that I work at. And I was able to take it home because it's super old, and I took this like home like during the summertime, I believe. So it's really old. It still works, it still sounds good. I decided to clean it up a bit and then customize it a little bit, but not that much. So I'm using this brand called Woosh, and it's basically a phone screen cleaner. I don't have any like different screen cleaners, so to be honest, I just use this for safety reasons. I didn't use anything like Lysol because I was afraid it would get into the system and kind of like mess it up over time. So I avoided anything like that. I should have actually looked into buying like an actual electronic like electronic cleaner so that way I could just clean these properly, but there's still some gunk on it when I was customizing. It's basically because there was a whole bunch of tape and stickers on it, so I did my best to remove as much as I could, but I didn't remove all of it, so there's still some sticky parts to it. Um, Overall, though, I got most of it. I did end up finishing my bottle of screen cleaner, so eventually I'll need to buy more because my phone gets dirty easily. So yeah, here especially there was like tape on it, and there was like different stickers where we put like the tester stickers and stuff like that. Um, Basically, this one has been super loved by our store, so we just cleaned it up. I just cleaned it up. So basically, drew on it with pencil first, and then I am coloring it with marker. I decided to not go with my touch markers because the surface is so smooth. I feel like it would have the same effect as like the decal stickers that I tried to make for my PS4, which basically came on lighter, like they dried way later than how they would go on to paper, so it's not as vibrant and the contrast is like really bad. So I decided to use these Deserres markers. I'm not sure if they're alcohol based, but they're their own brand of like art markers, so they're a bit different. They're stronger, so they actually went on pretty well. The only thing is the light blue turned out very light, so I don't know if that was the material. I haven't used these markers for a long while though, so it might just be the marker itself. Not too sure if it's just the pigmentation doesn't go well with the smooth surface of the speaker. Yeah. I found out that these speakers actually you cannot like crack open and disassemble, so that way you can just do spray painting or like painting on every part. So to stay safe, I stayed with like markers just because it's more controlled, so it probably won't go like in between the cracks randomly. The problem with like using acrylic paints is they're easily just spread and they're liquid, so they can go in between like the different crevices of the speaker and they might ruin it if they dry up there. So yeah, I ended up using marker because there's no way to actually open the speaker. I'm pretty sure there's a way to like disassemble it, but it seems really difficult. There's no screws or anything. I was checking all around and there's literally no way of disassembling it like easily. So yeah. Overall, I was trying to stay safe while just customizing this, to be honest, just because there's a lot of like stories of people painting on like electronics that are super expensive and just ruining it because you can't use something, especially if you paint over it and you haven't disassembled it and the paint gets inside. So basically there's a whole bunch of horror stories of people doing that online, so literally I just stuck with like the safest materials possible. I was gonna paint it because I was like, I probably won't get it in between like certain parts, like the front. The front is where like the sound comes out of, so it has like that mesh frame, but I wasn't gonna draw or paint on it anyways, but just to be safe, I ended up using the markers. I did not have a lot of different colors for these markers, so to be honest, Kaeya is a bit darker than how he originally is. So I wanted to make a Genshin themed speaker. Literally, I have this red and black speaker that I use for my PS4, but since I took this home for customizing purposes, I thought it'd be nice to make something Genshin related. I think when I purchased this though, no, not purchased, didn't pay for this, got it for free. But I think when I took this home, I was going to use it as like a Kaeya speaker and just paint Kaeya on it. But I was thinking of doing Kaeya and Diluc because they're brothers and it would just be like a theme. So it worked out perfectly. The only thing is the amount of space that you have to draw on it. If you can see like the difference between like the size difference between the actual speaker and my hand, it's pretty slim. Like it's a sound bar, so it's not super big and your artwork has to be super small. I'm used to drawing on like a larger scale, so this was kind of a challenge, especially the fact that like I'm pretty sure I should have waited for certain parts to dry for the marker rather than just continuously coloring, and I ended up coloring really slowly and just making sure that my hand didn't touch like the other parts as they were drying, just because I wasn't sure if this material would dry properly, and like I'm not sure if like the material would smudge or anything if you just touched it. So yeah, cuz the speaker plastic is different from working with paper, so I'm not so used to that whole different materials thing when it comes to like different artworks. So I was trying and testing it out kind of. The pencil surprisingly went on well for this material. There's this small strip on the bottom that you'll see where there's a line. Where past that line for the small portion of the speaker is actually really smooth there compared to like the other places. So it was difficult to draw on with pencil. From what I know, this pencil smudges off really easy for this material. So again, that's why I wasn't too sure about the whole marker situation. But yeah. I originally wasn't gonna outline much for Kaeya, but then I realized he had like white parts of his clothing, so that would blend in too much to the speaker, so I had to outline it with like the black marker. I didn't end up using my actual like outlining marker because sometimes that can be like easily smudged off of smooth surfaces, so I just decided to use the Deserres marker for even the outlining portion as well. I didn't really plan like the part next to his ear properly because I didn't really draw in his earring at first, so I ended up doing that afterwards, so that's why you see me adding like the hair like in the background too. Now on to Diluc. Again, it was so small, like their chin parts, like the chins are cut off of their faces, and it kind of bothers me, but at the same time, I'm like, well, there was no space, so there's no way I would get like the whole head in unless I drew on like a really small scale, which Unfortunately, for some reason, my hands don't like working with super tiny scales, so I have to draw like at least this was the smallest I could go for sizing, especially because the eyes would be like detailed in a way, so I tried to do it. For Diluc, I didn't put like any of his like arm or hand up, so you don't really see anything but his face and like a small portion of the color of his jacket, and that's pretty much it. I don't know. I didn't want to go into too much detail just because it's like super small again. For his face, I had no choice. I had to use my touch markers because I didn't have like this peachy skin tone color or beige for his face. In my Deserres markers, I don't have any like skin tones. So it's kind of just like the colors of the rainbow plus black and brown. That's all I had, so I had to end up using the touch markers. It didn't go on as well, and it's hardly noticeable, especially on camera. Like, you can't really see it too well. In person, you can see it better, but I have to say, it was not the best material for like putting the alcohol based markers onto the speaker. So like here I'm coloring it in, but you can hardly see it. But just letting you know it's working. It's just not really noticeable, especially when it's not in person. Like the camera didn't pick up the color too well. It was a bit difficult outlining the eyes just because the amount of space I had is really limited, so I was like trying really hard to get it right. I made him have this serious expression. At first, I wasn't gonna draw like the lips thing that I do, like for the outline, but I ended up adding it afterwards because I thought it would be nice to have that detail. Usually, I draw like the two lines for like the bottom and the top part of the mouth, so that way it looks like they have lips. But I was gonna keep it out, but I decided to put it back in because that's normally in my style of drawing, so I wanted that to be there. I'm kind of shading with a darker marker, but it's hard to see on camera for that part too. So here's where I added it. It was a bit messy because these markers are also thicker than the touch markers because the touch markers, they're brush tips, so it's easier to control how much you're putting on. And even for my outlining calligraphy pen, it's literally a small brush tip, so it's easier to control putting on less. But I couldn't really control the thickness of these markers. I drew his fire phoenix as well, so it's in the background. I didn't really do anything for a pencil outline to follow as a guide for myself. I just kind of did it on the spot because I was like, I want to do this randomly as a design because it felt so empty considering that like the whole speaker was white, so I just ended up doing that. So I just layered yellow, orange, and red for the phoenix, and that was it. And then for Kaeya, I kind of wanted to do, he has this power. I think his cryo power, one of them is Crystal Waltz, and basically it's when he has these shards go around him. I know my friend said technically they're supposed to look like blades of ice in the comic book, like the manga, but in the um actual game, it just looks like these diamond shards going around him the whole time. So I wanted to add that. I just basically went off of what the game shows and like what the pictures show for the screenshots of the game on Google that I could find. So yeah. So I am done. This is when it was dry completely. And then I actually worked on this second part another day. So this is day 2 of this, and I basically wanted to add something in the back because I felt like just drawing on one side was a bit too much. I know this was a bit too little, but I know this part won't be seen that much just because it's the back portion of the speaker, but I still wanted to add something cute. So because Kaeya has a cryo vision, I decided to do cryo slimes, and then on the other side I did pyro slimes for Diluc. Um, it's just to match their visions more than anything else, really, because I know slimes aren't like super good. They're kind of just monsters that go around and attack you. I drew like the really big ones that have like the helmets. It's so cute. I don't know. Like the big ones have like helmets, horns, and different types of things on their heads. But the small ones don't really have that much. So I really like the big ones a lot. So this one is the one with the helmet. I am just trying to layer on blue. There's literally only 2 blues in this pack of markers, so I ended up doing a light blue and a dark blue and just went from there. Since I didn't have much, I just wanted to like try to shade a little, but I didn't shade that much cuz I didn't have like different shades of blue for that. And now moving on to my tiny cryo slime, super tiny. I like how it has like snow on its head, like it's white color, so it's super cute. And then same thing, I'm just like outlining and shading in different parts, but that's basically all I did for the cryo slimes. I decided to also add a snowflake on the side because I thought just like hardly anything on it. Again, like you can see the backing of this. There's literally no screws or anything. Everything is just covered. I don't know how, like, if you can disassemble this without breaking it. It seems very, like, maybe I'm just overthinking it, but it feels like a really complicated speaker that you would be able to, like, open. So I don't know how to go about these speakers. I literally tried searching on YouTube how to open speakers, and most of the speakers that I saw can be like unscrewed and easily like taken apart. So I'm not too sure about this one. Maybe it's just the expensive ones that like expensive speakers that you can buy from different brands might be easier to customize than this one. So I am coloring the pyro slime. The big ones for the pyro slimes have the horns, so that's super cute. They're basically just like yellow on the bottom. It looks like flames of yellow on the bottom, and then the top is just orange, so I just did that. I have to say, the paint doesn't really not the paint, but the marker doesn't really dry that well on um on these surfaces. You can tell which direction that I was drawing on. It doesn't blend really well, so you can kind of see like it's a bit messy compared to like how I normally draw, and that's just because this material for some reason just shows all the little imperfections of the marker drying and like the different lines that you use. So it's really complicated to draw on these, especially when you're like trying to make it really nice. I know I had these acrylic paint markers from my workplace that I purchased. I don't know where I put them. I was gonna originally use those because I thought those would be better because they dry like more matte rather than shiny, so maybe they would hide the imperfections better, but I could not find it at all, so I decided to just like stick with the Sears markers that I had. And on this side, I decided to add a little flame for like fire and pyro, because why not? Um, just to match with what I did for the snowflake on the other side. So yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's basically it. Next, if you go to my description box below, all my social medias are, if you like and follow those, you can get like constant art updates. I will be posting the process work for this, like the pencil sketches and stuff like that. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye!